Okay. So thanks, Shushmit, and special thanks to Shomik as well. He called me and requested me to set up the session. Shoiko, thanks for arranging everything. And good morning, everyone. I want to start our session today by summarizing what I'm going to share during the next 30 minutes or so. There are so many diets and lifestyle advices available that about 7 years back in 2015, I decided I need to do a deeper dive beyond articles I have been reading in health magazines to understand how one can achieve good health and continue in good health as they age. So that led me to do a lot of reading of actual research published in reputed journals like New England Journal of Medicine, though I'm not a doctor, and selectively trying them out on myself. So what I'm going to share today is a summary of that research and the self-experiments of the last 7 years. So you don't have to spend the time and the effort to do so. However, please remember that anything I say here is not a medical advice, and I'm not a doctor. So with that, I am going to move to the next slide. And I'm going to give ample time for questions. Okay, so at the end, that's a plan. So let's start with a question. When a sink is overflowing and a faucet is running, is only mopping up the floor a smart strategy? It's of course a rhetorical question. So we all know that all these guys turn off the faucet and then do a one-time cleanup of the floor. So not expecting anybody to answer the question, but hold this thought for a moment, because we're going to revisit this picture a little bit later, okay? So this is a depressing slide, but I promise you it will not be depressing down the line, but it lists the cause of deaths in the US by cause. This is from CDC. And if you leave out a few, like COVID, which is recent, purified accidents, and probably leave out influenza and pneumonia. All the rest are basically chronic, what we call chronic diseases. You typically don't recover from them. They worsen with time. Chronic obviously comes from the word chronos, which means time. So they worsen with time. And our current medical strategy is to treat the symptoms and not the root cause. However, these chronic diseases are largely preventable with a healthy lifestyle and sometimes reversible. There are some areas of the world, for example, where in the local population, there has been zero incidence of heart disease. So doctors have gone to, Uganda 30 years back and reviewed the arteries of 1,000 patients. Not even one single one will have hardening of arteries or what we call heart disease. But when the same people move to Western countries, such as the US, and live a Western lifestyle, we see heart disease rolling back into their bodies. So it's not just genetic stuff, it's how the lifestyle they lead that seems to be causing most of these causes of death in the US today, including heart disease and cancer, which are the top two. And assuming if COVID goes away, which all of us, we hope it does, then the top three would be heart disease, cancer, and stroke. Why people die, why all of us, most of us will die. Okay, moving on. So this is what I call a longevity graph. The y-axis is the health span, how healthy you are, and the x-axis is lifespan, just how long you live. So the solid black curve here in this one in the graph is an average US population. Average US population will live about to 80. I think 78 is the exact US lifespan today. But in the last 10 years, from 70 to 80, they will have a pretty bad health span, pretty bad health life. So that's why you see the health span going down. So, and the lifespan has increased in the US, as all of you know. It was much lower over the last 100 years, 50 years has increased. but the health span has not improved significantly. So people are living longer, but people are not living necessarily healthier. Our goal is to rectangularize the longevity curve. So can we push this guy on this side and make it more and more like this? So reach the age of 90 or reach the age of 100, but have a very short span of poor health, and you kind of live healthier, longer, be active, enjoy life, have your mental faculties in good shape, and be largely medication free till the last weeks of one's life. So that's I hope that's everybody's goal. That's my goal, definitely. So that's what we're going to talk about here, focuses on that area of how we can achieve that. Now, so how do we stay healthier longer? Well, there's a magic drug named Ilicor B that is inexpensive, widely available, and has no side effects. So is this a hoax or this is for real? So just hang in there, we'll see. But keep this Ilicor B in mind as we move along, okay? So what are the factors that contribute to health span? Foods we eat, exercise, engagement, happiness. We all know this. We have heard about this, and when people keep talking about this, and so these are all factors except the negative stress, which is a negative, of course. Everything contributes to health span. There's some background noise coming. I don't know if whoever coming down noise coming from. If you can mute the phone, I'll appreciate that. Mute the computer. So as per my research, however, there's limited convincing data-based evidence on any of the factors below the first two, foods we eat and exercise. There is anecdotal evidence of happiness and mindfulness contributing to health span, but there is not enough, I guess, research done and published research on how they can contribute to health span. There's some on fasting, some on sleep, but not a lot. So there's a lot of evidence based research published on food and exercise, on the other hand. Also, the most powerful one, I would say, of all of these is the first one, the food we eat. It's so powerful that I'm almost tempted to call it the primary factor, and everything else is secondary factor. Because the reason I say that is if you do all the rest and don't control the food you eat, you're unlikely to get significant benefits. So it's that important. Yeah. So how to pick your food? I think most of you know what defines healthy foods, whole foods, foods that are high in antioxidants, fiber, etc., etc. One advantage of switching to this green foods is not only you live longer in top health, but you also lose weight naturally. You look and feel good. So there is icing on the cake beyond just living longer, healthier. There is a compound called TMAO, which I refer here, which the full form of that stands for trimethylamine oxide. It's a compound that our gut bacteria produces when we digest food. TMAO is highly toxic, highly inflammatory compound. You can Google it after this session and check it out for your own. And people with each of the chronic diseases that you saw in the CDC chart, the heart disease, cancer, stroke, diabetes, each of them have very high TMAO in their body. Compared to healthy people who are disease-free, they have no or very little TMAO in their gut. So TMAO production is almost a biomarker for good health. The healthy food that you are seeing here in the green, these guys, they don't create any TMAO in the gut when they're digested. On the other hand, these foods that you see on the right, on the left, on the red foods, they create a lot of TMAO. So TMAO means more heart disease, more cancer, more diabetes, all that stuff. So it's very important to stay healthy. So which foods should be eaten? Which food produces more TMAO versus less TMAO, more toxics versus more health promoting? So I've done the hard work and kind of separated it out for you. This is what I call the toxicity spectrum and nutrition spectrum of food. On the left, the red ones are the most toxic and the least health promoting. On the right are the most health promoting. Now, you can, based on your personal goal, you can choose to, land wherever you want. That's obviously a personal choice, but that's how the layout as per the research I have done. The most toxic of the toxic foods are here. Obviously, the red, the dark red, leftmost column. But the red rectangle is the most toxic of all the toxic food. Now, I know it when I equate a glass of milk to cigarettes. Smoking is not really a food, but I included there to make a point that the other three there are as toxic as smoking. So I know it sounds crazy when I equate a glass of milk to cigarettes, particularly when we have seen many got milk commercials over the years. But milk, red meat, and processed meats are proven carcinogenic foods with documented research to be extremely bad for our health. But sorry, I lost screen sharing. Can you see my screen again? I think I lost it for a second.
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
So milk, dairy, red meat, and processed meats are the most carcinogenic foods with documented data on them, but never really promoted because of strong food industry lobbies. So common people don't know about them. You may know, common people may not know about them because there is a lot of money going not to promote that truth. Okay, so with that, what I thought would be useful for this group is if I give you some health hacks. I think Shushmit referred to them as tweaks or something like that. So kind of health hacks which you can take on and try to incorporate some of them, all of them, depending on your level of inspiration in your life. So I have 11 health hacks, so that I'll quickly go through. Number one, as you saw from the chart, whole plant foods with a focus on the following vegetables. These are the cream of the vegetables that you should try to incorporate in your diet. Kale, arugula, broccoli, spinach, bok choy, cilantro, parsley, cabbage, beets, beet greens, Brussels sprouts, asparagus, and cauliflower. There is a very renowned cardiologist in Cleveland Clinic called Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, who's 88 years old, top health. This list came from him. This is his list of top vegetables that we should eat multiple times during the day, if possible in every meal, a little bit of them. They go to our arteries and relax our arteries and make them healthy with every meal. Number two, replace dairy with an unsweetened plant milk of your choice, except for coconut milk, which is high in saturated fat. So there are lots of them available in the market today. It's no more than 20 years back, they were hard to find, but soy milk, there's almond milk, there's oat milk, rice milk. So you can try different ones and pick the one you like. Number three is a tough one for most people. Learn to cook without oil. So I've given a little bit of a screenshot here of forks over knives and 3 expert tips on how to cook without oil. So if you go to forksoverknives.com and Google, or even just Google, how to cook without oil, you can find a lot of tips about that. I'll also refer to some resources down the line, which will help you to learn how to cook without oil. It's very easy. It needs to be learned, much like you learn biking or swimming. It doesn't come naturally because we live in a world where everybody cooks with oil. But this is, number 3 is a game changer. I love sweets. So replacing sugar by a small amount of date sugar, which is basically powdered dried dates, or maple syrup is useful, and it makes our coffee taste great, or tea taste great. So so you can buy maple syrup and date sugar and add a little bit of it along with whatever you like sweet. Salt intake. Salt is least of all the toxic. It's bad when taken in large amount, but small amount is okay. But what happens is processed foods, it's a lot of salt. So reducing salt intake should be a should be objective, and there are a lot of no salt seasonings available. But that's probably, unless somebody has a high blood pressure, that's probably less of all the evils. Add ground flax seeds, chia seeds to any diet at least once a day. Add a spoonful of a tablespoon of flaxseed and chia seed to something, your soup, your salad, your rice curry, whatever you want to eat, just add them. Flax seeds have to be ground because otherwise they won't be digested. They'll pass right through your body. Chia seeds are fine either way. Add turmeric, but with black pepper. Turmeric absorption in our intestine increases 12 times when you eat it with black pepper. So turmeric is a tremendous medicinal herb. So very important to have it every day, every other day, as frequently as you can. Ginger and garlic, they're anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory, great herb to have in your daily routine. Number 7, try to go to bed on a fairly empty stomach. It's a habit that one needs to form, but completing the last meal of the day at least 3 hours, if you can 4 hours before, but at least 3 hours before night sleep is very important. Sleeping at night is very important, by the way. That's not part of these hacks, but sleeping during the day is not as healthy as sleeping during the night because of evolutionary reasons. Number 8, if no medical condition, these are all hacks, and depending on your situation, depending on your age, depending on what you do, not all of them may not be possible, but I'm laying them out because there's tremendous evidence-based benefits as well as my personal benefits from all these things we have tried. So if no medical condition, 14 to 16 hours of intermittent fasting, which means the gap between your last meal of the previous day to the first meal of today. Exercise a little bit every day if you can, 45 minutes, 1 hour, but you don't have to. So make it a habit, like you shower every day or like you eat every day, just first thing in the morning or whenever possible. If first thing in the morning is not possible, at least 15 minutes on a busy day. People who say they cannot spare 15 minutes every day because they're busy, that's not a good excuse. If you can't exercise in a fasted state, that's the best. That only because of better fat loss, but also because of the brain generates a hormone or a compound called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which keeps us young, which protects us against Alzheimer's disease and dementia when you exercise in fasted state. So it's a tremendously beneficial thing. Again, not something you have to do, but if you can, if it's possible, you can do it. Include some strength training in your weekly routine, in your weekly exercise routine. Doesn't have to, the purpose is not to build muscle, by the way, though retention of muscle is very important after 40, because after 40, with every decade, we lose muscle mass from our body. And to retain some of that muscle mass. It's not the muscle that will show up as it shows up in a bodybuilder, but it's important to maintain that muscle mass so that you don't fall, you're strong as you age. And then the other thing that strength training helps us with is osteoporosis. We have bone issues and osteoporosis, not typically because we are low on calcium, and as compared to as what people tend to think. You need calcium, but mostly because our bones don't get pulled enough, pushed enough, they don't get enough exercise. So kind of, if you don't use it, you lose it philosophy. When you do strength training, your muscle pulls your ligaments, ligament pulls your bones, and it strengthens your bones. So it's important to do some strength training, not to build muscle, but to retain muscle and to keep your bones healthy. And for cardio, it's very healthy to walk. But if you can, it's good to take your heart and lungs to some periods of intense intervals, which was called HIIT. So do some intervals of intensity exercise. Again, if possible, if your doctor doesn't say that it's dangerous for you, then don't do it. But if it's possible for you, then do it. Again, and supplements. My research on supplement is that these are the 3 supplements that one need to either take or make sure they have enough in the body in the diet they're taking, which is vitamin B12, very critical for your nervous system. Vitamin D, very important for a lot of different things, depression, bone health, so on and so forth, and iodine for our thyroid. I'm sorry, can whoever is not on mute, can you please mute?
Yeah, I have noted them. Go ahead, please. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and iodine is again very important for thyroid health. So the reason I list them out particularly is if you go on a super healthy diet, you will need to be careful about these 3. I have to be very careful about these 3 because vitamin B12 is there in steak, but if you don't eat steak, then you don't get vitamin B12. So you have to supplement yourself. Vitamin D, if you don't get enough sunshine, you can get vitamin D in food, but then depends on what food you're eating. But I usually take a supplement of vitamin D, and I have slight thyroid issues, so I have to make sure I'm getting enough iodine. So those are the 3 things that I would, for a person on a very healthy diet, there are 3 things that a person needs to watch. Now, 2 doctors, Dr. Dean Ornish and Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, whose name I took a few minutes back, have treated and documented data on their patients who followed these health hacks, the health hacks I mentioned, this 11 health hacks, and actually reversed heart disease. And they actually showed that their arteries were full of plaque when they came in, and then they literally melted away in artery scans as they followed these 11 things that I told you in a matter of months. So in a matter of months, their arteries became cleaner. And now Dr. Dean Ornish, I think he's just doing a study on the same on prostate cancer patient, and I think he's getting good results. So these are all documented research, documented data. You can go to Google, you can Google Dr. Dean Ornish and Dr. Esselstyn and find out for yourself. When you follow these tips, you get protection and many times reversal of not one of those diseases you saw in the CDC chart, but all of them. So it's one treatment or one approach for a host of diseases, not one disease. When you say blood pressure medication, you only get protection against blood pressure, right? The negatives of high blood pressure. But the beauty of this approach is you're protected, and often you're reversing a host of diseases. And remember TMAO, when you have no TMAO, you're addressing the root cause of multiple diseases that can rob you of that healthy life that you want as you age. 1 second. I'm going to switch the slide. One other point that I want to mention is there is no real benefit of doing these changes for 3 months or 6 months. So you cannot go on a mission that, hey, I'm going to lose some weight. You will lose some weight if you do this, but then it will come back. And there is no real benefit to your health if you do it for 3 months, 6 months. So the transformation that you can make is you can go all the way and do everything like 100% of these, or you can say that, no, that's too extreme for me. I'm going to just take this, I'm going to go back to this. I'm going to just take this red rectangle from my life, which is fine. That's a small step, but the small step has to be permanent. If the small step is not permanent, then it's a pretty useless. So big change, which is temporary, is pretty useless. Small change, which is temporary, is pretty useless. But small change or big change that's permanent is a value add to your life. Just remember this. It's very important to remember, because if you switch in and switch out, there's no real benefit. Okay, so let me go back to this same picture that I started with. So remember that medications are useful. Heart bypass surgeries are useful when you need it, particularly if you have advanced chronic diseases. But like mopping the floor when the faucet is running, it's a good secondary strategy until you address the root cause by changing your lifestyle and shutting off the faucet of inflammatory foods. So it's important to take a primary approach of being healthy, and then obviously have a secondary approach of medications until you can hopefully get rid of them. switching slides here. Give me a second. So this is a chart from the Mayo Clinic. And all it says is a host of diseases get better when you follow a healthy lifestyle. So you may change your lifestyle because you have heart disease, but you will get protection from cancer, you can protection from diabetes and stroke and all of that. So it's not, it's one strategy to avoid multiple scenarios. Now, if anyone told me 7 years back what I just told you, what you see in the bullets there, those will be my reactions. I may even curse the guy lecturing me to stop eating my favorite foods. So if you are cursing me right now, trust me, I understand, because I have done that many times. When someone even, nobody told me this entire story, but when somebody tried to tell me part of this story, these were my reactions and what I lay out right here. So you know, you are fine to not to be very happy with what I'm saying here, because I was exactly like that. I'm going to switch slides here and now tell you about that magic drug Ilicor B. Remember, we started with Ilicor B. So here is the magic drug I promised. I just reversed the spelling. So it's broccoli spelled backward. But it's not just broccoli, it's kale and arugula and the rest that I laid out in the health hack slide that are really the magic drugs that you can take, and they're inexpensive, they're available widely, and they can help us lead a very healthy life. So I am a few more slides left. Okay. So I think it's important that I leave you guys with some tips on how to get started, because it's okay to say what I'm saying, but you know, if you are not used to this life, how do you really get started? So if you are hearing all these things for the first time, if you're not at all educated on healthy lifestyle, then I would say start with these movies. There are 3 movies that I think are really great movies made over the last 10 years. I suggest you can watch all 3 because it's easy to watch. You can relax and watch it with your family, yourself. If you think watching 3 movies is a lot, I suggest you watch What the Health, which is a very good movie made by Kip Anderson. He's the director. He's a young director who had his own health challenges, and in the journey of recovering from health challenges, he made this movie. Game Changers is the most recent movie that talks about a lot of athletes who have adopted healthy diets and the benefits they have got from that. So depending, you can watch all 3, or if you want to watch only one, you can watch What the Health. So leave that to you. There are 2 books, there are many books available on this diet, but 2 books that I particularly like. Again, if you want to buy only one book, I suggest you focus on Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease by Dr. Esselstyn. This book is $15. It's the best $15 you can spend on your health. The China study is a very scientific, documented research kind of book. So if you're not a data-oriented person, probably that will not be enjoyable. But it can be if you want to really look at the research and see what was discovered by data, by somebody who actually grew up in a dairy farm and a meat farm, and grew up eating meat. And then obviously you don't need to learn how to cook, because there's a different way of cooking where it primarily focuses on produces, uses little or no oil. So there's a lot of cooking channels available on YouTube that teaches how to cook like this, and they're free, of course. But Jane Esselstyn, who's actually Dr. Esselstyn's daughter, has a great channel. So Rakhi and I like to watch it. So you know, you are welcome to subscribe and watch the channel. And a really useful website is Folks Overnight. So really useful that they give meal planning, beginner's guide. You can research there. So there's a lot of resources available, fortunately, for somebody who wants to change. Okay, so I thought it's important that I shared this, and I think I'm almost done, but let's see. I may have a couple of more slides. Oh yeah. So if you think that with this healthy, bland foods, I'll probably live longer, but maybe life will just feel more dull and longer because I'm eating bad food, and then you cannot be more wrong. Your taste buds will change, and these foods will taste terrific. They taste terrific to me, and many others who have switched to a healthier diet. So your plate or bowl will look like a colorful rainbow. So you can look at these foods. These are all real foods that you can make. They're tremendously healthy, and you can and there's so many recipes available that you can try them out. But as you go through a month of the healthy diet, once you make a change, small change or big change, and you have a month of that change, that food will start tasting absolutely yummy because your taste buds will change. So that's the beauty of how we are made, that we adapt as we change. And this is for real. I mean, I've seen that myself. And I love desserts, so I put 2 of them in the pictures. I mean, this is of course just 6 pictures of thousands of food that you can make. But this is how your food will look, and this is how and this food will taste terrific. And then finally, I want to end by saying that you are not alone. These are all celebrities, of course. You may not know this guy. He is Eric Adams, a new New York City mayor. He lost his eyesight 6 or 7 years back out of diabetic retinopathy, and changed his diet, got his eyesight back, became the chief of New York Police Department, and now the New York City mayor. Everybody knows Serena Williams. Everybody knows Tom Brady. Everybody knows Tom McGuire. Everybody knows Bill Clinton. Lewis Hamilton, a Formula One race driver. So I picked up a few. There are many celebrities who have adopted a healthy diet and change their life, become better in their athletic performance. So that's it. Thanks for listening. If there are any questions, I can take them.
Thank you so much, Bhaskar. So we will open up the floor for questions. So if anybody has questions, you can unmute yourself and you can raise your questions, and we will be here to answer them.
Bhaskar, the Ambarish here. One doubt. So you spoke for non-dairy milk, but all non-dairy milk on the shelf are highly processed. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't know what you mean by highly processed. Non-dairy milk is squeezed in a factory and made from either an oat or almond or a soy. I love soy milk, and soy milk is my most favorite milk. So a soybean. So so let's take soy milk for an example to answer your question. So is soy milk as more processed than soybean, edamame? Of course, because edamame is a whole food made by nature, and then you're using that in a factory to generate soy milk out of that. Now, you can also add sugar to that and make it even more unhealthy, which a lot of soy milk does. But it's like, so when you ask that it's processed, yes, it's processed, but it's pretty healthy, particularly if it's unsweetened, because is it healthier than soybean? No, it's not healthier than soybean, but it's pretty healthy. And is it healthier than dairy? Oh my gosh, it's many times healthier than dairy. Dairy. So what's your alternative? So the question here is, what's your alternative if you want to drink milk? Unsweetened soy milk or unsweetened oat milk. So you leave out coconut milk. They're low in saturated fat. Many of them have good protein, good plant protein. So protein is good if it's coming from plant. Protein is bad if it's coming from animal. It will raise your IGF-1, which is a very bad. It's called insulin-like growth factor and get you cancer and heart disease. So, so these are high in plant protein. It's a low in saturated fat. So pretty healthy drink, particularly if they're unsweetened. So it can be processed though, which is okay.
Okay. And also on the food spectrum, I was surprised to see vegetable on the redder side, like second from left.
Sorry, I mean processed grains. It's a processed vegetable. So it's not vegetables. It's one word. This is one. I'm sorry. This is one.
Okay.
So it's not vegetables are on the right, as you can see. So if it's processed vegetables, I mean potato chips is a processed vegetable. So if you see that Americans say that they eat a lot of vegetables. Now you do a deeper dive. Okay, so what vegetables? Potatoes. Okay, how do they eat the potato? Boiled potato, mashed potato without oil and salt? No, potato chips. So American consumption of vegetables, particularly kids and even adults, is potato chips. That's counted as vegetables. It's really bad for you. So yeah, vegetables are great because they appear on the right. What I mean is, sorry, because of space constraint, the wrapped. It's processed grains, processed cereal, and processed vegetables.
Amrish, are you done? Can I go?
Yeah, please.
All right, thank you. Okay, I have one input about the sorry, Bhaskar, I don't mean to step on your toes, but I just wanted to give one input to Amrish. When you're looking for a plant-based milk, just look at the ingredients. If you see something that you don't understand, that is maybe emulsifier or preservative, just put it back on the shelf. You just have to keep looking. There are some companies who make, less processed plant-based milk. So you just have to find those companies. That's number one. Bhaskar, I have a question for you. Is there any test to find out the TMAO in the body?
That's a good question. There are tests. I'm sure I'm not aware of a test in TMAO. If you eat a plant-based diet, your TMAO would be pretty close to zero. TMAO is mainly when our gut bacteria produces, digest animal foods, they create TMAO. So, but I don't know. That's a good question. Going back to the other comment that Mohana made about processed soy milk, that's a very good comment. If you like soy milk, then Costco has a fairly good soy milk, very, very inexpensive. It has sugar, but what we do in our family is we add water and soy milk, so we reduce the quantity of sugar going in. If you really want to cut out sugar 100%, then Trader Joe has organic soy milk, which is just organic soybeans and water. That's the best soy milk you can get. But then if you need sugar in your coffee or tea, you may need to add a little bit of maple syrup or whatever healthy form of sweetener you can have. Any other questions or comments? Comments are welcome too. I mean, if you want to push back on something, feel free. I won't be insulted because I definitely, I was one who pushed back people on these kind of things before.
Yeah, Gopal, Bhaskar, this is Suresh.
Yeah. Yep.
So this is not a question, it's more of an observation. The way industry is moving or has, I think there are a lot of changes in the industry. The messaging around plant-based food and then moving completely vegan restaurants around. I'm talking about an Indian scenario which gradually has started moving in this space, and quite interesting to see younger entrepreneurs taking up to bringing in either a restaurant or a food, a cloud kitchen, which they make all kinds of food which is made from natural sources. So the messaging is very, very good to see. It is improving over time. But the other factor which is hampering the space is the industry leaders or giants in the food processing industry. They are pushing hard and pushing back. And they actually are tweaking the marketing message, saying, the oil is better processed, more naturally processed, it's close to organic. And that actually leaves a lot of doubt, or I would say confusion in this space for it to grow.
Yeah, so I agree. My comment on that is, if you look at the tobacco industry in the 1950s and 60s, the evidence was clear from early 50s that smoking tobacco, cigarettes cause lung cancer. It's direct scientific evidence was available. When did the Surgeon General made a rule and went out and said that tobacco smoking causes lung cancer? You have to put that level on boxes of cigarette. I don't remember the exact year, but I believe it's late 1960s or even early 70s.
Yes.
So it took 20 years of people dying after data was established, scientific research established that cigarettes kills, for that to be really become official policy. And why? Because tobacco industry has a very strong lobby. So just remember that the milk ads, the skim milk, egg whites, olive oil is a big one, where there's a lot of promotion happens because there's money behind it. Look at the Super Bowl ads. Have you seen one Super Bowl ad on broccoli or kale? How many have you seen on Pepsi and Coke and processed food and packaged food? Where is the advertisement? Where is the money to advertise broccoli? You cannot brand it. You cannot package it. So, it's the messaging you hear is quite a bit what people want you to hear.
So I think to add to that, what you suggested, some legends, some important personalities in life, creating some leadership and role model for adopting and moving into plant-based food, and talking about their lifestyle before, to convey and also convince people that you don't have to be living on fish or chicken, which you have been consuming until yesterday, for example, and how you move into this new space and your health-wise chronic diseases is an excellent pitch that you made, where chronic diseases are the one of the root causes for mankind to face the inevitable death. No, doctors, physicians, they all struggle to deal with chronic diseases more than actual disease for which there is always remedy. So I think the role model and idols, and also some bit of government lobbying to push these industry leaders to soften their marketing stand. Money is not everything. This is a big change and evolution that hope it happens in the next few years. A man will live, life expectancy will definitely improve if these measures are taken into account.
Well, more importantly, health expectancy, the health span. But yeah, I agree. Any other questions or comments? Welcome to make any comments. Anybody?
Hey, Bhaskar, this is Abhijit here.
Sushmit. Go ahead, Shubhajit.
Abhijit, not Shubhajit.
Oh, Abhijit,
hey,
yeah,
again, just comment, not questions. Again, I mean, very good presentation. Obviously, a lot of it was, we have heard from you over the years. I just want to make a comment, right? We human beings as species have been around for 2.5 million years, okay? And in 2.5 million years, we have adapted. Our food habits have adapted. And yes, our life expectancy has gone up in the last 50 years exponentially than it was in the combined 2.5 million prior to that. But the only thing that I'll say, and this is again philosophy, what you believe in, right? Everything in moderation is good. I mean, the things that you suggested might be very difficult for people to adapt and change within a week or a year. But if you're doing all of this in moderation, it might be good, because even if you look at our own scriptures, right? Some of the things that are obvious, like red meat is bad, we know that now. But when you look at our own ancestors, you look at Mahabharata, average age of each one of the Pandavas when their parents was 115 years when they passed away, and they used to eat red meat on a regular basis. But they should also do the other things. They should exercise daily. They should do all the other things, right? So in other words, what I'm trying to say is just taking bits and pieces and making a story out of it, it may not be good for everybody. What you have to understand is from Bhaskar's ideas that he gave, try and adapt it, but in moderation. And then if it works for you, good. That's all. And that's just a comment I wanted to make.
Yeah, the only comment I have on that one is, by the way, anything I said here is not my personal opinion. Maybe some personal experiment observation I made. Everything is supported by science. So I don't care about what Mahabharata says, what Ramayana said, what scripture said. Everything I said here is based on science, the data I've studied. You are welcome to ask me, and I can share that with you. So this is science, and I'll leave it at that. Shushmit, you were about to make a comment. Okay. Any other questions, comments?
Hey, Bhaskar, sorry, I was talking on mute. Am I audible now?
Yes.
All right. So I had a question. A lot of our traditional Indian dishes and our cooking style, we do eat a lot of vegetables, right? But a lot of it actually is cooked in either in high heat or for a long time, or there is quite a bit of frying involved. So suppose you're talking about cruciferous vegetables like cauliflower, broccoli, or leafy vegetables like all the different greens and shak that we eat traditionally,
Yep.
but they're all cooked in either in high heat or for a long time, etc. So my question is, how much detrimental effect does that have on the nutritional value of what we're eating?
So it's a very good question. So if you have seen, I have ranked oil in two places. One is here, another is here. So oil can be used in two ways, right? And this is less harmful than this one. So when oil is used in high heat cooking is worse than when oil is used to drizzle at low heat or no heat. Because then when you're taking oil without heat, you are taking, oil is 100% fat. I hope you know that. It's one tablespoon is 1,300 calories. It's a calorie bomb. But you know what? If you're thin and skinny, and if you don't care, you want extra, you don't care about extra oil, right? I can have a tablespoon of oil and nothing will gonna happen. But what if I heat it and have it? So there's an aspect to that. And the aspect is that when oil is heated, particularly near its boiling point, and you have to check different oils have different boiling points. Olive oil has a very low boiling point, by the way. Then oil creates chemicals, multiple chemicals that are carcinogenic, that are toxic. So not only does oil add, when you're using oil to cook, not only are you making the food fattier, but you are creating compounds in the food that are not health promoting. So cooking with water is easy to learn. You have to learn it, like learning biking. In the first few weeks, the food will not taste as good as it did with oil, but easy to learn. There are a lot of YouTube videos available, and I highly recommend either completely eliminating oil or reducing it to almost nothing. So those will be my, but if you drizzle oil and if you're thin and in good shape, that's okay. You're just adding fat to your diet.
Thank you so much, Bhaskar. Anybody else has any other question?
Bhaskar, the one more doubt.
Yep.
Yeah, so I asked this because my family, like N people, N-1 diabetic, only except me. So this is a question. So I did not see any mention of fruits in your spectrum. And I want to bring up the point about fruits. Now, there is. I'm sorry, I overlooked, very sorry. But the question over here is, not all fruits are created equal. So do you think the sweet fruits like mango, jackfruit, and all that have a more adverse effect on people with diabetes?
So it's a complex question, and again, I will give you what I have learned through research, and obviously, if you have diabetes, you need to consult with a doctor. But all fruits are not created equal. That's a very good comment. So what is the best of the best fruits? They're berries, all kind of berries. But the easiest berry that you can find that easily available is blueberries. So berries are the best of the best fruits. And the way you can, actually mango is very high in omega-3 for a fruit, and omega-3 is good for our brain, good for our heart. So mango is good too. But so if you don't have diabetes, if you don't have an issue of insulin resistance, then berries and pretty much all fruits are good. Now, if you have diabetes, then obviously you want to eliminate fruits that has a lot of high sugar in them. So it'll be good common sense to do that. But if you look at the physiology of diabetes, Ambarish, then you'll see that diabetes is a disease where your cells are not able to take in sugar from your blood because they're blocked. The absorption of sugar capability is blocked, and it's blocked by fat. So I would say the best diet for a diabetes that I know is focused here with focusing in both these two rectangles, but with limited fruits until the time it recovers. But people have reverse diabetes. It depends on how extreme it is, on how advanced the disease is. But people have reverse diabetes following this diet when you focus on the green area with limited fruits, because you don't want to have too much fruits and add too much sugar to your blood when your body cannot process it.
Okay.
But you definitely want to cut out fat, particularly animal fat.
Bhaskar, this is Shomik here. Thanks for doing this. There's one question that came from our people joining on the Facebook Live event. So one of our members are asking, if I have a high uric acid level, what are the things that I can do or eat to bring my levels down to normalcy?
Yeah, I do not know to answer. That will be a question for a doctor, I think. My research is primarily based on a regular healthy person who does things healthy. How can they age healthier and longer and avoid chronic diseases? I think uric acid is a complicated thing. There's a lot of things you can eat and cannot eat. I won't pretend to be a doctor. I don't know.
But a lot of people do claim or advocate a lot of health benefits for yogurt, curd, and all that. So any counter means I have not been able to counter those well, actually.
Yogurt meaning, are you talking about yogurt or yoga?
Yogurt, doi.
Okay. Yoga is great, but yogurt is not, particularly if it's made out of dairy.
Yeah, dairy, yeah.
So just so you know, the protein in dairy is called casein. And Dr. T. Colin Campbell has done decades of research to show that when you add a little bit of a cancer, if you introduce cancer in a mouse and feed them casein diet versus a vegetarian diet, the casein diet promotes that cancer. So it's obviously that test cannot be done in humans because it'll not be legal to introduce a carcinogen in a human and do a test over 10 years. That would be an unethical clinical trial to do. But it's been well proven in other mammals that when you add casein and you have an element of cancer in your body, which comes to our body every day, by the way, our environment introduces carcinogenic materials in us, but our body has a defense mechanism to kill it. But the defense mechanism is trumped when you add casein to your diet. And casein is basically milk or yogurt or butter or cream or cheese or whatever, anything dairy. So yeah, I mean, yogurt is, I know yogurt is big in India, and I think particularly, in many parts of India, yogurt is part and parcel of diet. If you can make yogurt, out of plant-based meals. It's available, at least in US it is available. That's great because it doesn't have casein, it doesn't have animal protein. But yogurt from milk is not good for you. Well, I guess thanks everyone. This was good. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, everybody, for joining in
Thank
this
you.
morning.
Thank you, Bhaskar. This was really good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for joining in. So we will be ending our session right now. In case if you have any other questions, feel free to just email us or message us, and we can always reconnect back with few other things also. All right. Thank you all. Have a
Thank
good
you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Bhaskar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.